KMMU Utah. That is Main Street Media Utah. And this is the Liberty Moms Show. Liberty Moms are the original secretaries of defense. We are the real defenders of the home front. And we are there when it comes to defending our families and our communities. We have a great show for you today. I'm so glad you're joining us. We have an amazing lineup. We have an incredible man, incredible veteran, a true statesman, Jacob Bacon, that is going to be with us. And then we're going to have 5 of the state school board candidates that are running for the state school board this year. And so we'll be bringing them on. That is Kris Kimball, Cari Bartholomew, Rod Hall, Joann Brinton, and Kelley. And so they are going to come on with us later. But right now, I'm going to introduce our first guest, which I am just honored to have him on today, Jason Bacon. He is, like I said, he's a great veteran. When he was a kid, his father was a decorated Vietnam War vet, and he was taught to give service and to love our country. He was taught patriotism. And a vet of the Vietnam War really is a true patriot. And he was taught to value work. He was taught the value of honesty. And I love this, that trust has to be earned. You don't just get it for being alive. He enlisted in the Navy right out of high school, and he deployed to the Adriatic Sea. And then he decided to follow his real dream and to become a Green Beret. And so he served in elite units like the 82nd Airborne Division, the forces. He was in for 22 years. The last 13 years, he was in the 5th Special Force Group. Then he ended up retiring and then became an instructor of the source operations and teaches a course at Fort
Huachuca.
I'm like, I'm just going to take a shot at it. Huachuca? You say Huachuca. Okay, made it harder than it is, which is pretty much what I do. Yeah. Awesome. And served 9 deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. Amazing. And went to many other countries as well. And so you have so many experiences, so much wealth. And you look amazingly young for everything that you've been through. So you're probably older than
stress-free life.
What's that?
The stress-free life.
Exactly. Yeah. I think your stress-free life it's kept you young. And so now you are helping other Green Berets run for office and go back to Washington, D.C. and to restore our country. And Jason, thank you so much for being here. And really, I just want to say thank you so much for your amazing service to our country.
Thank you.
Thank you. We really can't. Thank you doesn't do it. But we do want you to know that we really appreciate you and we honor your service and your amazing sacrifice. We get that you have signed a blank check to our country because you have no idea what the outcome was going to be. So, Jason, tell us why you feel passionately about helping other Green Berets run for office and especially Congress, get back into Congress.
Well, if you look at the experiences, the training experience, the background that most veterans have, but specifically Green Berets, because of the mission set that we do, and then you compare that with the role of a representative in Congress or a senator in Congress, where they influence and make decisions on everything from national security, veterans benefits, all this. It's really a great fit for someone that wants to continue serving their country.
It really is a great fit, and we are in trouble. We are in trouble.
We're in a lot of trouble.
And you and Colby Jenkins have taken a really sacred oath to uphold our Constitution, as has every member of Congress. Both Senate and House have also taken that oath. But what I have noticed is, and I've been very disappointed, and really my heart is broken, because people that I really love and admire and have a good relationship with have taken that oath, but they have violated that oath through their votes and through their actions in being in Congress. They haven't, I don't know if it's that they don't understand the Constitution, if they don't know enough about it, or what happens to them. maybe weak moments, or maybe being falsely informed, but they have not chosen to uphold our Constitution, which I find very disappointing. And yes.
If let me break in there. A good example is if you watched the debate between Colby and Celeste the other day, she kept talking about hitting singles and doubles as opposed to hitting a home run with every bill. I understand the sentiment.
Yes.
But are these singles and doubles that she's bragging about, are they for us or are they for Democrats? And,
Yes.
and I say that distinction on purpose because if you look at Democrats' votes over the last 10 to 12 years, it seems they go against everything that the Constitution says. And
surprisingly, really surprisingly, because they take an oath to uphold the Constitution as well.
Right.
Shouldn't be partisan.
And there's members on our side, on the Republican side, that do the same thing. I can give you a list of names, but it goes back to why a veteran makes a good candidate in my eyes. And maybe I'm a little biased being a veteran, but one of the things you have to do, so take Colby for an example. When Colby was a commander, he gets, a set amount of money every year that he has to spend for training, equipment, etc. So he has to budget that out and get the most effective use out of it.
Yes.
Then you have someone like Celeste that comes in there. I know everybody badmouths lawyers, and it is fun and it's easy to do, but they are very educated. They're very smart people. You have to be to get that far in school.
You really do. You've got to be intelligent.
Yeah, but she clearly does not understand budgeting if she keeps voting for these omnibuses. And she would describe it as hitting a single. I would definitely not describe that as hitting a single when we're $34 trillion in debt and we're spending $1 trillion on average every 90 days.
Yes.
That is the time when you take severe cuts to your budget. I mean, think about that. That's you making $100,000 a year at work and spending $250,000.
Exactly. And then
no one can do that.
And then saying, well, we need to keep spending more money on things we shouldn't be spending money on.
Right.
So we can keep our house afloat. Where what we would do is say, no more spending on anything that's not, first of all, we're going to make sure the house payment or the property taxes are paid. We're going to make sure we have food, and any discretionary funding is going out. We're not spending any discretionary money at all. And that's not what's happening. And our Constitution is so clear, in my opinion, it's very clear. Article 1, Section 8, these are the things Congress has the constitutional power to spend money on. And if it's not there, they shouldn't be spending money on it. They don't actually have the authority to. So I'm like, we don't need to shut the government down. We simply shut down the things that we're not supposed to be spending money on. Just fund Article 1, Section 8. It's pretty simple.
It really is. If you, like you said, go back to the Constitution, it's some places it's vague. But it's a basic outline that says you can do this, you can't do this. And if it's not specifically listed here, it belongs to the states. Exactly. But federal government has crept so far and wide on every issue. And then, Congress just gives away their power to the executive branch, to agencies and departments of the federal government. I mean, there's a lot that needs changed. I mean, I think everybody agrees with that, but
I hope so. There is a lot that needs to be changed. And, my father was a veteran. My brother was a veteran. And I found my brother would always say, if you want to be sure, and of course there's always exceptions, but if you're looking for somebody to do something, find a veteran, because you're going to have somebody who's got character, amazing skills, who's very committed and going to work hard and really committed to do what you need done. And so even outside of the military, and I found that with very few exceptions to be true. And that is one thing that I've really been impressed with Colby Jenkins, who is running for Congress seat 2, Congress District 2 in Utah, because he has that foundation and that background. I've been very impressed with him. I'm not easily impressed because he doesn't have a voting record. Everybody can say all kinds of things, but I want to know what you're actually going to do. And how do I know you're not going to cave like Celeste has caved?
Right. And, it just goes back to the first thing I said with the list of traits and experiences and everything that a veteran has, especially a senior officer like Colby. You've got demonstrated leadership skills, usually in a complex or high pressure situation. And then you can take that and bring that leadership experience to the table as you're debating these. And if you've heard Colby talk, you know how effective he is as a speaker. And he's very calm about it. He's not argumentative. He doesn't cuss. He's just very factual and, brings his point in a good way. That'll definitely carry over well into Congress. And, again, problem solving. Think of a problem like the border. I mean, a very complex situation. We like to break it down to black and white in the media, but it's really not. There's a lot of gray area.
It is very complex.
Yeah, a Green Beret is trained to think critically, adapt quickly to changing circumstances, and find an innovative solution. So, again, those abilities are invaluable in politics, where every one of these issues is very complex, no matter what the media tells you.
They are, because especially the border, we're dealing with real life people. A lot of them are really decent people, and a lot of them are hardened criminals. And you can't really tell a sex molester by looking at one. And they have the nicest personalities. They're sweet and engaging. I mean, that's why they get what they get. And so you can't tell by looking at someone. And it is a very complex issue, but it's extremely essential to the survival of our nation.
Yeah. And, another thing that point, and I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but in the mid 70s, the House and Senate both together were roughly 74% veterans. And they also had an approval rating at the time of 70%. And
they were 74% veterans?
Yeah, all the World War II and Korea veterans.
Wow.
So now compare that to now, where Congress's approval rating is anywhere between 9 and 12%, and we're only 17% of the members are veterans.
That is fascinating, Jason. That I've never heard that before. That is incredible.
It's not, I won't say there's like a direct correlation, but it's one of those things you look at and you're like, oh, well, maybe let's try something different then. Maybe get rid of some of the lawyers and put in veterans and see if we get a different result. Because what we're doing is not working.
Yes, that is true. And the thing about a veteran is they've literally put their life on the line for this country. They have literally sacrificed and been willing to die for our country, and they're not going to sell out easily and quickly because they really understand it. And I shouldn't really use the word sell out, because I don't think that most Congress people are just like consciously selling out. I don't think they realize that they really think they're making a good decision. I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, or most of them. I definitely want to give Celeste the benefit of the doubt that she really believes that her voting record is somehow aligned, that it was a good idea. I understand she didn't want to shut down the government, and I understand that's complex.
Right. And, you get someone there that doesn't have, Celeste, using Celeste as an example, she brags about her long time, experience as a staffer, working on policy, etc. But you still don't have the leadership. She's never been in a leadership position like Colby has. Yeah. And she was like the debate this week, she was really hitting on, oh, that's my leadership experience. Well, I'm sorry, but I went to a lot of leadership classes in schools throughout the military and government. And what you're talking about is not leadership. It's management at best. And there's a very big difference.
Yes.
But most people that don't have that background in leadership don't understand that.
That's such a good point. Yeah, that's a great point. Do you want to expand on that a little bit before we move on? Because there is a difference between managing people and leading people. There is a big difference.
Yes, and
outcomes very different as well.
Yeah. So after I retired from the Army, I went to the CIA for a while, and I went to some of their leadership schools while I was there. And this is one of the things that came up in some of those classes. And you have to realize there's no set definition for what leadership is. So it's incumbent on any given organization to make their own definition. That being said, there's a very big difference between leadership and office management. And even there at the agency, they couldn't really comprehend the difference between the two. Whereas the Army, from the time you're, 18, 19 years old as a private, you're put in charge. It may only be 2 or 3 other people. It may be a minor task, but it continuously builds your entire career. And you keep going to these leadership schools for each promotion, and it's different for officer and enlisted, but you still have windows or gates that you have to pass that are these leadership schools before you can get promoted. So the veteran leadership is far and above what you can find pretty much anywhere in the civilian world.
Okay, so tell us why you feel Colby would be such a great congressman. Why do you think he is such a superior candidate?
So, like we said, we kind of already talked about the leadership.
Yes. Yeah. And he has great skills there. I mean, he really has.
Absolutely.
He has 30 years honing those skills where he really, and something about a leader is somebody who is actually in the trenches. A manager will say, you go over there and you get this task done. A leader will lead and get in the trenches. He will be,
right.
Or he will be actually there with.
Right. Unlike Obama's comment that of leadership from the rear, that's not leadership.
Right. There's no such thing as leading from
leadership is from the front.
Yes. Leading from behind is following. It is not leading at all.
Right. So you've got the leadership and the problem solving that we already talked about that, all veterans really have, especially someone that's, 20 plus years, a senior NCO or a senior officer like Colby. But you've also got, the commitment to service or commitment to the country. That's a core value that is instilled in every veteran, not just, Colby because he's a Green Beret, but you get, an unwavering commitment to serving others and a deep, really kind of deep understanding of the sacrifices that are required to defend our freedoms. And you take that and then you go into take that commitment to defending, say, the border. It is a national security issue at this point. So you take that commitment to defend our country, in this instance, the border, with the problem solving and the leadership. And then, the understanding of national security. All veterans kind of get exposed to it, but, just from my personal experience as a Green Beret, at one point, I was the lead negotiator between the U.S. government and one of the Iraqi tribes we were trying to get to help us.
Wow.
Nowhere else in the military do you get that. Like, no other unit sends a senior NCO out and says, hey, this is what we want. So it just goes down to the lowest level. So you get a profound understanding through and through of a national security issue and the importance of maintaining that strong defense, which border security is very much a part of. And then I got one more I want to say. integrity and ethics.
Oh,
You know,
so
the
important.
training, the ethical standards, just being on a 12-man team, you have to have absolute faith that everybody else on your team has ethics, morals, great integrity, that moral character. So and if you don't, the rest of the team will let you know in no uncertain terms what they think of you.
Right, because everyone else is dependent on you. Can't have you have a weak link, you have a broken chain.
Yep. And
Now,
then if you contrast
integrity is essential. The integrity level is absolutely essential, and the character.
Yes, and we can see that. You've got George Santos, whether you believe he should have been kicked out of Congress before the investigation or not. He lied. There was potential campaign finance violations. Then on the Senate side, you've got Bob Menendez right now, who refuses to resign, even though he's been charged with, bribery and all kinds of things. That's what we need to get rid of right there off the top. I don't care what party you're in. You should be out at that point.
Okay, and so, Colby, he has this experience. He's put his life on the line. He definitely is a man of character. And if you have a visit with him, if you talk to him, it's very evident that he is a man of character. And I do believe that he has great integrity. And how can we assure people that he will not cave? Because when he gets into Congress, he is going to have a lot of pressure to go along with the administration, who wants to expand government, who's saying, we need to. I mean, honestly, Celeste says all the right things. She says we've got to control spending. We've got to stop the overreach of the federal government. She says we've got to control spending while she's spending.
While voting for spending.
Yeah, while she's spending.
To include voting to fund sanctuary cities and all these illegal immigrants. I think it's something like a quarter or a third of the hotel rooms in New York City right now are occupied by illegal immigrants, but we have homeless veterans in almost every city.
Yes. And that's being paid for by us. And yet our veterans are not being taken care of. Right. This doesn't seem hard to figure out, but apparently it is really tricky.
Right. And that's something, again, that Celeste voted for. And it's just, every politician says the right thing when they're campaigning. I mean,
you say the right thing. So how do we know? How do you know that Colby won't cave?
So if you look, I started Green Beret PAC last cycle, so 2 years ago now. And two of the candidates I supported last cycle are Eli Crane in Arizona and Keith Self down in Texas. Eli's a former Navy SEAL. Keith Self is a former Green Beret. That's two of the people that are voting for their constituents, regardless of how much leadership pressures them to vote for these endless spending bills, these, all these open border bills that they claim are great, but it's really basically blanket amnesty. It's not anything that's good for this country, no matter what Chuck Schumer tries to spin it as. So, and it's just, it's really a process. So several of the candidates I've endorsed, I've known personally, one for, 15 years, one for 20 years. And I still put them through the same interview process. Like, what's your position on this issue? What's your position on this issue? I make phone calls through my network. Like, hey, what do you know about this guy? Is there anything bad that's going to pop up, to find those character issues, that kind of thing. And, that doesn't happen in politics. Everybody looks at what sells, a woman, a veteran, a minority. That's what most politicians and PACs look for is, oh, well, this is easy to sell, instead of the content of their character. And that's really what I'm looking for. And I say it as we endorse principled conservative veterans, but there's really a lot more that goes into it on the backside that nobody really sees.
And you know what, Jason, you brought up such an important point that I think we should spend a moment on, is the reason that they sell, if you're a woman or, whatever they categorize people or a person of color, is because voters actually vote that way.
Yes.
Voters do. We want to blame them for marketing it that way. But in reality, we as consumers or voters, because I don't like to think of us as consumers, but as voters, we allow things like that to get in the way. And we don't vet, we don't look at character, we don't look at who's really got the integrity and the tenacity to go back and stand up to the establishment. We're kind of programmed for that. And that is something.
Programmed is the key word.
I'm sorry?
Programmed is the key word. That's exactly what I was going to say, because we've been taught through public education, my generation, even I'm 49, but my generation has come up through federal Department of Education public schools. And the indoctrination is creeping everywhere. So just yesterday, June 12th, is now called Women's Veterans Day. Well, why do they need a separate Veterans Day for women versus everyone else?
Right.
It all falls under diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're just pushing divisiveness, and they gave it a fancy name because now you've divided women veterans out. And it's good. This morning on LinkedIn, there's several women veterans that I've, communicate with and such. And one of them made a post and said, yesterday was Women's Veterans Day. I responded to 0 messages. In fact, they all got deleted if they mentioned it, because I'm a veteran, not a woman veteran.
Right.
And that's the attitude that we need. And honestly, I'm starting to see it across the country that everyone is starting to push back on all the DEI. Even large companies are now getting rid of it, like firing the DEI officers and all these hires and starting to go back to merit.
And only because people have been pushing back, only because it hit them on the bottom line.
Yes.
They're receiving great pressure to get into it. So it's an international, it's worldwide pressure. And companies are starting to push back because because we as people are standing up and saying no. And so we as voters, we as citizens of the United States of America, we need to stop buying into these things that are called inclusive, that are very divisive. We need to stop looking at the outside things and being sold a candidate. We need to start looking at statesmen and character and integrity. That's what we need, what they will actually do and how much they know about the Constitution, how aligned they are with it, how much they respect it. That's what we should be using to make that determination. And I see a lot of things about relationships. People usually vote if they know someone, they go, I'm voting for them because we're friends, or that I have a relationship with them. And I love what you said, Jason, because you said, even those I know, I vet them. I give them the same rigorous vetting as I do my friends, as I do those I don't know. Even though you know more of the character, you're still vetting because you want to know what they're going to do when they're on the front lines in Congress. What are they going to do? And that is the beauty of a veteran. They have been in combat. They have held the line. They have stood the ground when they in the midst of the battlefield. Right. And that's where I feel like Colby, I just feel very passionately, and I feel very strongly. I do feel that he will stand up.
Well, and since we're talking about character, I'm sure everybody out there has seen that, Senator Mike Lee endorsed Colby.
Yes.
And that whole process started with Celeste lying about Colby.
Ooh.
And it was easily fact checked. So Mike Lee contacted Colby. That's how that happened.
I didn't know that. I did know that he was very, very vetted, that Mike did not just give his endorsement lightly or easily. It wasn't once. It wasn't twice. It was 3 very, very intense, more than multiple hours of really putting him on the front lines and really vetting him. And I will be honest, I felt the same way because I have a relationship with Celeste. I really like Celeste as a person. I think she's very lovely. And as I said, I do believe that she is well-intended. I think she's drank the Kool-Aid. I think she got duped. I don't think and it's weird. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I know that it's true because, as I said, my brother's he was a veteran. I didn't say he was also an attorney. And I asked him, I am an educator and I'm certified in teaching the Constitution. And so I love the Constitution. I care very much about that. And that's where I always go when I vet candidates. And my brother being an attorney, I just asked, like, how much did you learn about the Constitution as an attorney? He's like, well, we had one class and it really was more about case law and precedents. It wasn't really that we hardly ever even discussed it. He goes, I did have one term class. That is all an attorney learns about our Constitution. Now, my brother, I don't know. I think it was maybe my dad, but we learned about the Constitution. We both have a great love. He and I both have a great love for the Constitution. And so he was kind of a rare attorney, to be honest. But that is something that isn't just natural, isn't just going to happen because you think that an attorney is going to know a lot about the Constitution.
You would. One of my best friends from the Army is married to an immigrant. She came from Mexico, I don't know, 20 some years ago. Like, her son has graduated college. He was born here. She just got her citizenship probably 6-7 years ago now. But we were talking, and before she got it, to get your citizenship, you have to take a civics test and pass. Yeah. Why don't we have that for Congress? Because it's very clear, like you said, that most of them don't know the Constitution at all.
They don't.
I blame our education system for that, but at some point, the person has to take responsibility for their own knowledge.
Yes, they do, especially as an adult, especially if you're going to take an oath to uphold the Constitution. It's time to learn about it and read it. And an Ivy League university, I can't remember which one, but about 15, 18 years ago, they did a survey of the Congress at that time. They only asked one question on the survey. They asked, have you ever read the Constitution, the one you took an oath to uphold? Do you want to guess what percentage of Congress admitted they'd never even read the Constitution?
Probably more than half.
Yes, 80%.
Yeah.
80% admitted they hadn't read it. And I just thought,
that means it's 90% at least.
And yeah, so when you really nailed it there. We need to be teaching it. And the more that we teach it, we are teaching the future. Our young people today are the leaders of our future. And when they understand and know the Constitution, they are equipped to stand up for it. And we need to teach them about it and teach them how sacred and how amazing it is. So genius. It's incredible. You can be sure the founders did not come up with it on their own. As wonderful as they are, they did not do it on their own. They were absolutely inspired. So any last comments that you would like to say about Colby Jenkins?
Vote for Colby on, 12 days now? If you want leadership, if you want national security experience, if you want, veterans experience, defense spending, $800 billion a year. You have someone that understands that process. National security, look what's going on in the world between Israel, Taiwan, Ukraine, the southern border. I mean, Venezuela's getting ready to invade its neighbor. We don't hear about that on the news. It's all these things that someone like Colby has direct personal experience in and can say, wait a minute, that's not how that works.
Yes, and he has that knowledge and that experience. And let's just talk about how Colby feels about securing the border. I know we mentioned it, but that is one of the big issues that Celeste is running on. What knowledge does Colby have about our border?
So every veteran, deployed to, in the last 20 years, deployed to Colby, in particular, Colombia. They've had border problems with the drug smuggling into Panama, Iraq, Afghanistan. My personal experience, I was along the Iraqi-Syrian border fighting smugglers, smuggling Al-Qaeda in 20 years ago. And it's the same. The Iraqi border is two dirt berms running parallel. There's no other physical barrier. Mm-hmm. And They've dug roads through it. So yes, we need a wall. Yes, there's more to it than a simple metal structure. It has to be patrolled by the Border Patrol, cameras, lights, sensors, everything. Despite what Democrats in Congress tell you, walls do work.
Yes, they do. And it's so self-evident. Everybody that has built a wall around their own property knows walls are pretty effective.
Yes,
and
exactly.
We're spending a lot of money securing other countries' borders at the expense of our own country's borders. So I think
about it. 8 years ago, Donald Trump was told, no matter what you think of Donald Trump, he was told we couldn't afford $5 billion for our southern border wall.
Right.
How many hundreds of billions have we given away in the last 2 years to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan?
Yes. Yeah.
So we could have had a wall from sea to shining sea, manned, sensors, everything for the price that well under the price that we've spent on other countries.
Yes, we could have. Yes. And we can reinstill those principles and those, they're not really laws because Biden didn't undo laws, but the mandates and the things that we had that President Trump put in place in order to secure our border, those things are so easily reinstated. If we really wanted to secure our borders, we could do it very quickly and very easily.
Yep.
Jason, I cannot thank you enough for your service to our country. I really appreciate it. And I know that our listeners and viewers also very much appreciate you. Thank you so much. Please know that you are appreciated, and your father as well, and your family. And we want to say that to every veteran. Thank you so much for your great service. Thank you so much for talking to us about Colby. I feel like we are so blessed. We have a chance to we have so many great, Colby Jenkins is such a great candidate, and we have a chance to put him back in Washington in Congress. Let's not miss that chance. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to shift gears now. We're going to go to the state school board members. And before we do that, I just want to remind you are listening to KMMU.com. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, we're on X, and our website is kmmu.org. And so you can listen and participate on any platform you want. And now we're so glad you're with us. And we are going to shift gears to our state school board members. And our first candidate that we have that is running is Cole Kelley. I'm tongue twisting myself. Cole Kelley. And I am so excited to have you on, Cole. I'm really excited because we haven't actually met in person, but your reputation precedes you. And I am really thrilled that you are running for the school board, and really glad to have you with us. I know that you're a teacher and that you're in the classroom. I am an educator as well. And I know you can talk to lots of people sitting in a big office, but you're on the front lines and you're seeing on the ground level what is going on in our classrooms. What do you think is the biggest concern, the biggest issue that we are dealing with in public education right now?
One of the things that I've really tried to emphasize in my campaign is that our system is broke. And that one of the things that I really want to clarify here is that the system is broke, but here's what the system being broke has kind of done. And I want to make sure that this is clear, is that the system being broke has kind of created a little bit of a divide between parents and teachers. Okay.
Yes.
And that's really, this is where I really think that I can have an impact as a board member, because as a school teacher myself, I can tell you there's a lot of parents out there, but I understand why parents are frustrated. And I don't think that parents are frustrated with the individual educators. The parents are frustrated with the system, right?
Absolutely. That is so true, Cole. That is very true. Parents like their teachers for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. And teachers are feeling like they're being attacked. But I think one of the things that teachers have got to understand is they're not being attacked personally. I made a post on social media, it was actually just a couple weeks ago, about the proficiency rates of our graduating seniors and how many of them were proficient in the various subjects. And the numbers are not good, and they don't, it's not reflecting well on our education system. And I had a lot of teachers that were really offended by that post. And my answer to those teachers is, look, this is not a reflection of you. There's a number of factors that we've got going on there. Number one, we have to look at how they're being tested and what's being tested, right? To measure that proficiency. But number two, we have a system right now where we're pushing kids through the system with very little accountability.
Yes.
And teachers are trying to hold students accountable, and they're not being supported by the system, right? And so the analogy that I've really liked that I think is important is, if a mother and a father are working to raise kids and they're divided in their efforts to raise the kids, it's not going to go really well, right?
So true.
You need mother and father to be on the same page in terms of what they want to do to raise these kids and teach them different values, right? And I view that similar to the way that teachers and parents in the education system need to coexist. If we have parents and teachers that are divided, it's ultimately not going to benefit the child. And so we've got to recognize, parents have got to recognize that teachers are working in the best interest of their child, and we need teachers to recognize parents are simply going to look out for their kids, and recognize when it's the system that's pitting that against each other, and when it's, there are activist teachers, but I think they're very few and far between. And so when those activist teachers are pushing their activism in the classroom, I think they need to be called out. I think they need to be dealt with, and in many cases, ultimately, they need to be fired, right? But I think that that's something that needs to happen. Is we need to build that trust back. We need to help teachers recognize that parents are simply looking out for their kids, and we need parents to recognize that teachers are in the industry because they want to help kids.
I love that. That's very true. And we do need to work together, and parents need to understand. I think one thing parents need to understand, that schools are supposed to be there to support the parents in educating their children, not a replacement of the parents. Right. Schools need to understand they're there to support the parents in educating the child. So if both understand that, then we as teachers and educators and the school system can recognize parents do have a say. And when we replace parents are way too easily willing to be replaced sometimes. Not all parents, but I think sometimes we do stuff and then parents go, oh, well, they'll just take care of that for me. I don't have to do it. And it's important that we see that as the schools are there to support the parents in being parents and doing what parents are supposed to do. And we're a support system. And that way the schools never come between the parents and their children, which I think is very important, that the schools support the family, support the parents and the children, and not come between them, because that creates a lot of problems as well, a lot of issues. So thank you, Cole. So what do you think? That is a huge issue. Thank you very much. That's a really important one.
Sure.
You made that post about proficiency and the disparity between proficiency in the student's education and then the graduation rate.
Sure.
So what do you want to say about that?
That's
pretty bold statement. Yeah.
One of my biggest frustrations as a teacher, and I know that this is felt amongst my peers in the industry, is that we're pushing kids through the system with really very little concern about what they're learning throughout the process. Attendance, just something as simple and basic as attendance. Teachers are having a very difficult time even enforcing the most basic attendance policies, right? And this is where, again, parents and teachers need to come together. Hey, look, parents, if a teacher is trying to hold your student accountable to certain standards, that's not a bad thing. All right. We're trying to teach discipline. We're trying to teach work ethic. We're trying to teach responsibility. We're trying to teach deadlines. And in the workplace, that's going to happen. You need to show up to work on time. You need to turn things in on time. When a deadline hits, if you miss that deadline in the real world, the opportunity has passed. It's no longer there. And so we've got to allow the teachers that opportunity to enforce attendance policies, to enforce cell phone policies. If they don't want cell phones in their classroom, they need to be able to enforce that. And if a child takes a cell phone out and the teacher has said that's not something that I allow in my classroom, then they need to have acceptable consequences, and parents need to recognize that, hey, this is the rule in that class. This teacher's asked that the students follow that rule. My student violated that rule, and they're simply enforcing the policies of that classroom. And so we've got to create that relationship. But part of what is happening is, as I mentioned before, the system, if you will, it is pushing kids through without accountability. And so teachers, hey, I have an end of level test for my class that the students take, and I can predict almost to a T which students are going to pass that test and which ones are not. And oftentimes it's based on who's come to class, right? So it's very hard to judge me if a student's been to my class 100% of the time and then they're not reaching proficiency, then I've got to accept some responsibility for that. But if a student's attending my class less than 50% of the time, and then on that proficiency test, they're bombing, it's hard for you to hold me accountable for that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because you can't teach them if they're not there. And there has to be a desire. There needs to be within this child a desire to learn,
Sure.
a desire to achieve. And so what do you think it means? What do you think is the definition now? What does achievement mean now in public schools?
And that's the thing it's pretty difficult. I've got 5 of my own, and they're all different, right? And now you take a classroom full of students, they're all different, and they're very unique in their own way, right? And so it's the difficult thing that we have a hard time in education measuring, okay? And I think what needs to be the standard of what you measure is improvement. When I get that student, where are they at? And when that student leaves me, where are they at? And if that student has shown growth, then I've done the job that I was asked to do. If that student stayed exactly where they're at, again, if they attend, if they're coming to class, if they've stayed exactly where, then I need to step back as a teacher and as administrators. They need to look and say, well, look, this student attended your class 90% of the time. They show no improvement, so let's look at why, what can we do? Maybe it's the teacher, maybe it's the student, maybe it's the attitude, maybe it's the desire to learn, like you mentioned. And so there's so many factors that you have to consider in that, but we've got to create some type of a benchmark that says, here's where the student is at, and let's look at what the improvement of that student is. But, at the elementary school level, if we're sending kids into the junior high and high school, and they're struggling to read, they're going to struggle. It's going to be a nightmare for them. Yeah. And so we've really got to make sure that kids at the elementary level are learning how to read, learning how to write, learning some of the, basics of math, arithmetic, and those skills. Absolutely.
Okay, so you know what you're getting into? Do you go to the state school board meetings, Cole?
Yes. So, I know, a glutton for punishment, aren't I?
I'm thinking, do you realize what you're doing to yourself?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and you've gone to some school board meetings, I know.
Yeah.
And so what kind of an impact, what kind of a difference do you think you will be able to make being on the state school board?
One of the things I've kind of mentioned it throughout my campaign, the teachers union has always put a big target on my back. I speak out against them often. And I speak out against them because one of my biggest frustrations with the union, and it's the NEA at the national level, it's the UEA in the state of Utah, is that they fight any change. They don't want to see education change. And yet, if our system's failing, we need to change the system. We need to look for ways to improve the system. And they're going to come at you and they're going to fight you, right? Well, I'm a big believer in the free market system. I think that competition drives excellence.
It
We
does.
have tremendous, we have the cell phone industry has come so far. Why? Because of competition and competing in that industry, right?
Absolutely.
And in education, I think, as professional educators, we've got to recognize that competition is good for our industry.
It is.
Yeah,
good for everybody. It's good for the children. It's
good
great
for
for the
children.
teachers.
Yeah, it's good for the children, but it's also could be very good for the teachers, because
Absolutely.
if schools are competing to get the best teachers in their school,
yes,
they're going to want to incentivize them to be there and stay there, right?
Totally. Absolutely.
And so if we're finding outside the box ways to reward excellent teaching, instead of what exists right now in education is complete socialism. We pay everybody the same, no matter what you do, how good you are. We pay you based on years, we pay you based on education, and those are the only measures that allow a teacher to progress on the pay scale, right?
Right.
I think we've got to find ways to reward excellence. And
I love that.
Yeah.
That is just a law of nature. It's true for everyone in every aspect. That is excellent. I love that.
Yeah. And a lot of teachers feel like that's going to pit people again. In the private sector, when what's the saying, when the tide rises, all ships rise.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And I don't, I'm a wrestling coach as well. Right. In Utah right now, we have outstanding athletes that are competing at the high school level in a great way. Right now, our 16U team, which is kind of sophomores and juniors in high school, they're competing in the national tournament. They're going to finish in the top 5 in the country, Team Utah.
Right.
And how's that happening? It's like, we compete with each other within the state, but as we get better, as programs get better, it's like all programs are going to have to rise to that level. And so
it breeds excellence.
Absolutely. And so that's something I think is important, and we got to recognize that it's not an attack on teachers. It's a way to bring excellence,
Cole, thank you so much. Why don't you hurry and give us your website? How do people get a hold of you to get more information or to help you with your campaign?
Sure. It's Mr. Cole Kelley .com. And that's just MRCOLE. And then Kelley often gets misspelled. It's KELLEY. But MrColeKelley.com. Feel free to reach out. My email is mrcolekelly@gmail.com. So love to hear from you. And thanks for reaching out. I appreciate having the opportunity to be on your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for running. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Cole. Okay. As you can see, we've got his website pulled up right there, and we're going to just hurry and welcome in Pastor Rod Hall, who is also running for the school board. I didn't mention Cole is running for the school board seat in 12, and that is, I think, the West Valley area.
Am I still on?
Yes, you're still on.
Okay. Yeah. So it's Orem Vineyard Linden in Utah County. And then it goes out to Wasatch County, Duchesne County, Uinta County, and Daggett County. So it's kind of a rectangle straight east of Orem.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So that's number 12. And now we're going to welcome Pastor Rod Hall, who's also running. And Rod is running in School Board District 3, which is more in the, I'm going to let you tell, Pastor, it's more in the Layton. I'm not sure how far it goes. I just know it's in that area. So
It's
tell us.
Layton, Syracuse, Sunset, West Point, Clinton, Riverdale, South Ogden, Washington Terrace. It's Uinta. All those cities encompassed. It's about 225,000 constituents.
Yes, and that's the thing. The school board is a huge race because our state is divided into 15 sections. We have 15 state school board members. It's twice the size of a Senate seat, as a state Senate seat. It is huge. So it's 250,000 people that you're trying to connect with. And really what you just said is the caucus system is vital, because there's no way you can reach out to 250, 300,000 people, and there's no way that they can reach out to you. And we know that 99% of citizens in the state of Utah do not know who their state school board representative is. And so how can they really represent the parents or the students when nobody knows who they are? So Rod, thank you. I just want to say thank you for running. You are an awesome candidate. I am super thrilled. What do you think is the most important issue that we're dealing with in education right now? Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're running, and you've got a great connection with young people. You know them well.
It's been the joy of my life to work with young people for the last 25 years, and we really help young people transition from sixth grade into 7th grade, and then from junior high into high school into college and career. And it's been amazing to be able to do that. There's a lot of issues, and I don't even know where to start. You asked me what I think the most important issue is. I think there's a great disconnect between parents and teachers. It's huge, and I don't know if it's intentional. I'm really not sure. But as we've been on the campaign trail, I realize that there's a lot of parents that don't like teachers and a lot of teachers that don't like parents. And it's a powerful topic. And some teachers don't want parents in the classroom, and other parents just don't want to be in the classroom. They don't want to be connected. And we've got to find a way to bridge that gap. I think a lot of it is messaging. I don't think a lot of parents really understand what teachers go through, to be honest with you. And if you were to boil it all down, I think in the state of Utah, we have a high number of teachers that are incredible teachers.
I agree with you so
that
much.
just need to be free to teach and exercise the gift that they have. Most parents don't understand that teachers work sometimes between 55 and 60 hours a week. The workload is unbelievable. The requirements that they have on them are not even, you really shouldn't ask a person to do the things that a lot of teachers have to end up doing.
That's such a great point, is where we've given teachers stuff to do that's not educating, that is not really under the purview of a teacher.
That's
and
right.
Asking to do all this stuff. And so of course they're stressed, and it's really difficult. And I mean, just as a teacher, I'm just telling you, I like to correct the test, but oh my goodness, it takes so much time.
I know.
I don't get compensated for it. It takes a lot of time, but I do learn a lot about each student from doing that, but it is very time consuming. So it's not just the time. You got to prep and you got to clean up.
That's right. That's right. I think people have this misconception that teachers just hang out all summer long and they don't do anything. But the way that things are set up now, you can't even really master your subject. They're always changing programs and shifting directions. And there's so many unrealistic expectations that don't allow teachers to do what they need to do
and what
they want to do.
And what they went into is educating for. They want to teach. And we're getting into all this other stuff. So I think I couldn't agree with you more. It's a really important thing to fix.
So I think the messaging is important, because there's a lot of things I didn't know about what teachers deal with on a day-to-day. And so I think if parents really knew that and understood that, the way that they would step into that space would be way different. It might be more of a spirit like this that says, you know what, I haven't been here, but I'm here now. And how can I serve and where can I help? And if we had a third of parents do that in our state, it would absolutely transform our entire educational system. It would, first of all, bring stability to the system, and it would bring accountability. There's so many things that are going on in the classroom when it comes to disciplinary issues. It's big, with restorative justice being a big thing in our state now, especially in our Davis County schools. Young people aren't held accountable for their actions anymore, and we need young people to be held accountable for their actions.
For themselves.
Not just
it serves them.
That's right. It serves them. It only hurts them when they're not. And also parents need to be held accountable too, as well. You shouldn't be able to let your kid miss 150 days of school and then expect that they move on to the next grade. And so there's a whole lot of things that just need to be addressed and talked out. We need to get back to teaching, core subjects. When I hear schools talking about getting rid of, social studies, cutting different things out so that they can incorporate these new programs,
Yes.
it breaks my heart, because those are areas that our kids are going to miss out on, especially history. They need to know what made this country great, and we're missing those things.
We can't know the future without knowing the past. It's so
That's
important.
right.
Where did we do great? Where did we fail? Where did we mess up? Because we will definitely recreate that if we don't
Absolutely.
know. Because it
Absolutely.
always sounds like a really great idea, but you need to look at history to see, okay, this worked, this didn't. We can learn so much and not repeat the same mistakes. And that's how America became so great. We
That's
didn't
right.
just know the history of America. We knew the history of the world.
Yep.
We knew all what happened everywhere, and they took the best things and put them together. And it really is amazing. I mean, I'm just not biased at all being a history teacher, but that's why I think history is so vital to our future.
Yes.
Okay. And Rod,
If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. You
Absolutely.
have no clue. So it's important.
Totally true.
Yes.
And you have been making a difference in changing young people's lives for, I think, 25 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about how you've been doing that.
Well, just being intimately involved in the sense of really having a personal relationship and walking with young people through hard times, trials and tribulations, with families too as well, and engaging that way, but also teaching young people that they can become. You can do anything that you set your mind to, that they were made for more, and just trying to speak life into them that way, and really encouraging them that way. And I think we have a group of young people now that are coming up that need more help than ever before. I don't know if I said this to you last time that we met, but they're saying that 25 is the new 18. Well, young people could do at 18, 6, 7 years ago. It's taking them till 25, sometimes 26, 27 years old to really be able to dig out and get going in the right direction. So we're seeing what I would call the seeds, right, that have been sown. Now here's the fruit. We're seeing the fruit, and we don't like it. And I believe that people are waking up and they're realizing we need to have a change. We have to have a change now. We're entering into a place of crisis.
We are in a place of crisis. We really are. Thank you. So, Rod, tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to help on your campaign, or if they live in the area and they want to have a few more questions asked. I'm sorry we're so short on time, but
no,
I
it's
think
okay.
it's really important, because the state school board has so much power and impact on our education system.
Absolutely.
And this is a place you can really make a difference. And I'm really excited about you being there. So tell us your website.
rodforutah.com. rod4utah.com. You can also reach me by phone at 385-390-2926. That's 385-290-2926. And I would love to talk to you at any time. My email address, you can find it on my website, but if you'd like for me to give it to you, it's rod.edu4utah.com, or excuse me, at gmail.com.
Fabulous. Okay. So Rod, what do you think, if assuming you win, which I think you will, it's looking good. We never want to assume anything.
Right.
But
right.
How do you think, do you feel like the present state school board has been trying to make a difference? You think they're on their path? Are they making some good decisions? Where do you feel like that? Do you feel like
I won't criticize all of their decisions. You just can't do that. You know what I mean? They've definitely made some decisions that are good. We don't want to take away from that. But the harmony that needs to be there with the board, I don't think is there. I don't think you have a cohesive board that can work in the right direction together for the sake of our kids. And when you have people on different pages, I'm not saying you can't have different people on different pages come together.
Right.
I think the focal point needs to be our kids. And when I think about our kids, the first thing that pops in my mind is protecting the hearts and minds of our kids. So important to me. Of course, we want to educate them, but we want to protect them so that we can educate them. They don't need to be in an environment where that's toxic, or that's trying to rob them of their innocence. We can't have that kind of stuff going on in our schools, and we need to have an environment that we create that is really set up for learning at the highest level. And I think you have to have a board that is in sync and that really cares about those things, and to be able to see that come to pass.
So, Rod, how do you feel about the all the pornography that's in our schools? How do you feel about it? What do you think, as a state school board member? What do you think you could do anything about it, or is it just really more of a local decision?
So this is a big one for me. Pornography is one of the most destructive things on the planet. We watched it destroy young people, middle-aged people, older people. I watched it wreck marriages. I currently meet with men now on a weekly basis and help them deal with this issue. There was a judge that I worked with. We had an intensive outpatient treatment program for addiction for years that we ran. And he's a judge that oversees 70 judges in the state of Utah. And he said this to me. He said, I've seen people get clean of heroin, of cocaine. He said, but pornography is one of the most deadliest, dangerous drugs on the planet. And to even plant the seeds in our schools, allow those seeds to be planted in our schools, to me it's satanic. It really is.
I so agree with you. That's a great word for it. It is satanic.
It is a gateway for kids we cannot play around with. So this is an issue I don't feel like is a local issue. I feel like it's an issue that we need to take charge in our state and protect our kids. Some of the companies that are out there that I grew up with, Scholastics, some of those great companies are introducing these things into our schools, into our libraries, and it's a shame. And I think there needs to be some legislation that's laid out that protects all of our kids in this state and creates a guardrail to keep this stuff out of our schools. If you leave it to local control, there's some people out there that don't see it the same way that we do. I'm all about local control, but this is one of those big issues that I feel like needs to be dealt with from the top down. There's some people that don't see things that we do that feel like this is a freedom of expression. Right. And I tell you what, when it comes to our kids, you don't want to express that way. It's a dangerous, dangerous door that's being opened. So I think we need to do whatever we need to do to protect our kids in this area.
I so agree with you, Rod. I wish you all the best. You're an amazing candidate. I'm very excited for you. So give us your website one more time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Rod4Utah.com. Rod4Utah.com.
Rod, and it's the number 4, not
Yes.
FOUR and FOR.
Right.
Rod4Utah.com.
Yes,
please,
ma'am.
if you live in that area, get a hold of Rod and go out and help him get some work. We need to get him and the rest of them that we're going to have today. Rod, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Have a great one. We'll see you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay, now we're going to welcome Cari Bartholomew, who is running for the state school board in District 13. Welcome, Cari. We're so happy to have you with us again.
Thanks for having me.
Cari, tell us where 13 is. Tell us the area that your board covers.
Sure. It is Olive Provo, Mapleton, Springville, Spanish Fork, Lakeshore, Benjamin, and half of Payson.
Yes, these school board districts are very large, as you can see. And so, yeah, it's very difficult to campaign, isn't it? It's really, really a job to campaign. It is. I know you haven't gotten any sleep, but I know you're working super hard at it. So, Cari, you are an educator yourself, and I think it's really fun and wonderful that we have so many educators running for the state school board this year,
right.
More than I remember in the past, just from my memory. I love that because you see this from a place as an educator, as a mother, and also as an administrator wanting to be on the board. And so tell us why you decided to run.
Sure. Okay, let me clarify, because some people, educator, I don't have a degree in education, but I do teach I teach in homeschool co-ops. I've been a para educator for charter schools, and I have what I say is over 12 years experience in the classroom. That is not exaggeration. Because I have an only child, I've been in the classroom full-time, nearly full-time, like at least 3 days a week. I've taught theater, all of these things. And they've been positive experiences. In the last couple of years, I've seen the joy in education start to go out, and I've seen a lot more activism come in. Just recently, the UEA put out their magazine, and they don't even pretend that their goal is not activism.
Right.
Now, you cannot be I don't believe you can be an activist and be a true educator, because you're not teaching our children to think. You are using our children as pawns. So this is the huge reason why I'm running, because having people use our kids as pawns is absolutely wrong. It robs them of joy. And then we talk about their mental health, and how can you have mental health when you're a prop?
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly. And Cari, you're so right. I have so many of my friends who have retired or couldn't wait to retire, retired early, or just been
yes,
just hanging on, because they go, the joy of teaching has been stripped from our schools because we're no longer allowed to educate. We're now into indoctrination, and we're doing activism instead of educating. That is a
right.
big problem. And it
And
doesn't hurt teachers, it hurts children.
well, and the division between parents and teachers, I've never seen anything like this. Like I said, I've been in the classroom. My son is 16. I've been in the classroom since he was 4. And it's never been an issue where there's mistrust and there's hiding things and there's no transparency. It's always been teamwork until, I would say, until 2020, when teachers kind of were labeled as the experts, and other people were labeled as inessential, and you couldn't go into the classrooms, and all of these things just started to change pretty drastically and pretty quickly. And I know for a fact that there are teachers. It's really sad that I have teachers who will call me or call my friends and say, hey, I'm voting for her, but don't ask me to endorse her publicly, don't ask me to say anything, because I could lose my job. Especially in my district, like that, they are scared. And the problem is that the incumbent is not a Republican, does not vote, even according to the Republican platform. And so their best chance is to elect me, but they're flat out told they shouldn't. So we'll see.
And that's in America.
Yeah.
This is in America where educators, teachers are being told who to vote for. And that has been happening for really, all my life, all my adult life. I remember my teachers telling me that even when I was in school. And definitely once I got out of school and had friends that were educators, they made that very clear, that they were told who they were supposed to support, and they better support them.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if they got fired. They definitely got kind of censured, and they got on the outcast. They were not included.
And promotions, right? So they lose their ability for promotions.
Mm-hmm.
So I really support all kinds of education. I want public school to be its very best, because 86% of our children go there. So I want it to be the very, very best.
Oh dear, we lost Cari. Hopefully she'll be able to jump back in. But yeah, that's really important, because just picking up on what she was saying, our kids that don't go to public schools, kids that are homeschooled or privately educated because the parents made that decision, we all create this world together. We're all living here together. So our kids that marry each other, they date each other, we work together, we have jobs with each other. And so and people that are 86% of the people in public ed, they become our new future leaders. They become our representatives. They become our bosses or our coworkers or our employees. And so that we all live in this society together. So it really is important to really work on public education and make it better. We always, we can always make it better. We always want it to be better.
And we lost Cari. A connection failed because she's in her car.
So okay. So hopefully
I'm going to see if I can get her back.
Okay. We're working on getting Cari back on. And in the meantime, I'm going to just take a quick moment to, we're going to have Kris Kimball join us. We will also have Joann Brinton join us. But I want to make you aware of some events that are coming up, because you are invited. So tonight, there is a Zoom meeting. Everyone is invited. It's at 7:30, so you can be relaxing on your veranda or in your pool. You can join. It is the Platform Republicans Zoom meeting, and we're going to have Tenna Hartman, who is running for House 19, for the legislature. We will have Frank Mylar, who is running for the Utah Attorney General's office. And we will also have Tina Cannon, who is running for Utah State Auditor. So you'll get to come on this Zoom. You'll get to listen to them, hear what they have to say, ask the questions. That will be very informative. And I invite everyone to join us and to jump on there. It is a little bit tricky to tell you the website, the link online. It's too long to read. But if you go to Platform Republican on Facebook, I believe that it is posted there. The link is there. So you can go to Platform Republican PAC, PAC, Platform Republican PAC on Facebook. The link should be there and you can jump on that. And you know what? If you can't find it somewhere, just text me 801-330-0303. Give me a text and I will be happy to just text you the link and you can join us. And we saw Cari come back, but apparently she must be driving someplace without a very good connection.
Her phone overheated.
Oh, yeah, blew up.
It blew up.
Okay.
She's trying to get back in.
Okay, great. So that's tonight, 7:30, Zoom link. You get to hear Tenna Hartman, Frank Mylar, and Tina Cannon. Also, Saturday, 2 great events. On Saturday, 10:30 a.m., you get to hear Colby Jenkins and Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee. They're going to be live in person in Centerville, 679 North, 500 East in Centerville. I will repeat that address. Grab your pen and pencil. So at 10:30 on Saturday morning, you will get to meet and ask the hard questions of Colby Jenkins and Senator Mike Lee. They will both be there. You can meet them in person and talk to them. Also, if you live not in Davis County, but in Salt Lake or Utah County, you can go to the Parkway Park in West Valley City, and that is at 4:30. So go to the park in the afternoon on Saturday. Get all your chores done in the morning. 4:30, go to Parkway Park in West Valley, and you again will get to meet Senator Mike Lee and Colby Jenkins. And if you think that you love Celeste, which I love Celeste, but if you are considering voting for her, please come and meet Colby Jenkins in person. Look him in the eye, ask him the hard questions, and educate yourself. Come and meet him and see him. I will be at the Centerville one. Again, that address is 679 North, 500 East in Centerville. That's at 10:30 in the morning on Saturday, 4:30 in the afternoon, Parkway Park in West Valley. Both of those are on Saturday. So I would hope that we would have all of you show up, come and give your support. Invite people. If you're already going to vote for Colby, invite people to come. People that have a Celeste sign in their yard, get them to come and meet. All they have to do is meet Colby and talk to him, ask him the hard questions, learn about the issues, find out what is really going on. We have some serious problems happening in our country right now. We have a great opportunity. We are so blessed. We have so many wonderful candidates that really are only running to set things right, to fix things. And it is our right and it is our duty to elect good people that will set our ship straight. We become complacent and become very comfortable with things as they are and don't realize how serious things are. According to the Lieutenant Governor's office, only 7% of people have voted. So, and I would encourage all of us to vote on Election Day. This is what is so awesome. Every county, if they get I'm sorry because I don't remember the number. I'm not that great I'm a history teacher. I'm not a math teacher. So if so many people, I want to say 25,000, but I'm just making it up. Okay, if enough people in the county vote on Election Day, they have to create more places, more voting polls. They have to have more places where people can go vote. So if it is possible to write in your day timer, June 25th, to go vote in person and show up, that is the best thing you can do to ensure voter and election integrity and security. Nothing is more secure than going there, showing your ID and voting in person. You can take your ballot or you can go and get a new ballot. And mailing out ballots, we have 2 people in our household and that vote, and we have that are, have registered. Every year we get at least 5 ballots. And so it is insecure to just mail ballots out nilly to just everybody out there. Even though I know our county clerks try to update things and correct things. I know of 3 people in my neighborhood. I'm a precinct chair I know 5 that are in my neighborhood that I know personally that are on the voter rolls, and 3 of them have passed away. 2 of them have moved away. And so they shouldn't be on our voter rolls anymore, but they are, and they're getting a ballot, or someone in the household is getting a ballot. Please go and vote in person if it's possible. If not, take and drop your ballot off at the county, because we have no oversight, no stewardship, no chain of custody. When you just go sticking that in the post office, you just go stick it in a ballot box. Who is overseeing that? Where's the chain of custody from there to the county? None. There is none. This is not how you ensure voter integrity. So I would invite everyone that if you possibly can, but vote as close to the deadline as possible if you can't show up on the 25th. Okay, so we will, I'm really sad about Cari, and she is a great candidate, and it's Cari Bartholomew, and I'm so sorry because I didn't pull up her, I know it, but I didn't really pull it up, and I don't have it memorized. But if you Google Cari, it's C-A-R-I, Cari Bartholomew for State School Board, Utah State School Board, her website will pop up, and you will be able to get to her. And I am not, okay, this is Cari's website right there. So see if I can read it, which I can't, but it's C-A-R-I Bartholomew for the State School Board 13. So yeah, if you're in that area, please make a point to call Cari, go to an event, meet with her, vet her. I think you'll be very impressed. I think Cari has a voice that cannot be duplicated, and she is very principled. She's very aligned with the Constitution. She's really done some excellent homework and research. She knows the Constitution quite well, and she will be a great addition to our state school board. So I invite you to absolutely make a point to get to know her and meet her. Okay, we will be having another school board member join us very shortly, but I pray that every one of us will not just vote, but we can make a big difference by getting our neighbors and our friends and our family members, educating them, teaching them about both candidates, and educating them both sides and how important the caucus system is, and help them to go vote. Cari's website is www.cari, K-A-R-I, 4, utkids.com. So that's Cari, C-A-R-I, 4, utkids.com. So go on there. I would hope that every one of us would reach out to somebody that is running for office and ask what you can do to help them.
Cari's apologizing. It's 100 degrees out there and her phone overheated. She couldn't get it started back up.
I can understand.
Yeah, no, it's a little warm. It's a little warm.
Yeah, it is a bit warm. Yeah, we're having a really warm June. I think it's time to go boating. Personally, I'm ready to get out on the lake myself. So everybody, go out and reach out and see who you can get to help. The candidates districts are so huge. I can promise you every single one of them needs some help getting elected and getting the word out. So please call your family, call your friends, let people know, and just say, hey, do you understand how important the caucus system is? And make sure they're aware of the candidates who won at caucus convention. At convention, the delegates, the neighborhood, every citizen had a chance to elect a delegate. Everyone gets a chance to run and be a delegate, but we all elect delegates to go represent us. And at convention and before convention, the people that are elected there are vetted. These delegates meet in person, eye to eye, and meet numerous times with all of these candidates. And they overwhelmingly voted for specific candidates. They're 69%. 69% voted for Phil Lyman to be our next governor. They had a chance to meet with our current governor, Spencer Cox. They had a chance to meet with Phil Lyman, and they overwhelmed almost 70% of the people there that were elected, that were duly elected, that met both, vetted both, said, oh yeah, we want a real governor. We want a person who represents Utah values. We don't want Mr. Woke. We want a candidate, a governor who's really going to represent us and do a great job. So he overwhelmingly won. Frank Mylar got almost 60%. So he is a fantastic candidate. And we have several other really awesome candidates. I am going to welcome our next state school board candidate, Kris Kimball. We are so delighted to have you, Kris. We're glad to have you back. Again, excellent candidate. And Kris did not just think, I have just been dying to get on the state school board. I can't wait. But she was asked by many people. And the reason she was asked is because Kris, she is an excellent constitutionalist. She not only knows it, she's certified in it. She's certified in it. She's also certified to teach it because she knows and she understands the proper role of government. And she also understands the proper role of our state school board. And Kris, we're so delighted to have you join us. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm just personally super excited about you running for the state school board. And I think it would be so fun, so amazing. What a great blessing.
Well,
and it's not because we're friends. I just want, for the record, I have talked about, we can't elect our friends because they're our friends.
No.
We can't vote against someone just because they're our friends either. And so the reason that I support you is because of your principles, your knowledge of the Constitution, and your knowledge of the proper role of government. And I think you bring a lot to the table. So tell us how people were able to talk you into running for the state school board, Kris.
Well, I'll tell you, I was at your Eagle Forum January conference, and that happened to be the weekend prior to the deadline to file. So of course everyone's watching to see who's filing, and I'm praying that somebody will get in. It's so important that people do not run unopposed, especially when they've not really followed and voted like they should have, followed the party platform, followed the Constitution. And so the bottom line was God nudged me into the race because, as I said, and you mentioned, I was not seeking to run for school board, but I am always one that will, I've been involved, of course, with you through Eagles Forum, through United Women's Forum, as the party chair up in Davis County Republican Party, on many different coalitions. And so we have, Dalane, you and I and a few others were one of the first ones to push back against Common Core. When the state school board signed Common Core, took on that horrible
monster.
Yes, that has created so much of the damage that we see in education. I mean, we knew it was going to happen.
We did.
And they refused to listen to us. They just said, yeah, it's already been tried and tested, which was a lie.
Not true at all.
Not. Right. And so we've been involved for a long time, and we've been involved in the gaslighting, in the public placating that the school board will do. They'll give you an answer and look you straight in the eye and not tell you the truth. And so that's kind of the environment that you're going into, because I remember talking to Sid Dixon. She wasn't the superintendent then.
At the time, yes.
At that time, and my concerns about Common Core, which at that point was just math and language arts.
Right.
And she said, this is it.
Yes.
This is the only part that will ever come under Common Core.
We're never going to expand it.
We're never going to expand it. We're just not going to do that. And she just could say that with a straight face and with total sincerity when it was totally untrue.
Well, she might have really believed it at the time, but whether she did or not, did she stand up and make sure it became true? Did she stand as a gatekeeper and say, no, we agreed only these two subjects, we're not doing it for everything else? So whether I actually think she really believed it when she said it.
We can give her some grace in that respect.
Sure.
But did she stand up and do fight against. No, absolutely not.
We didn't stop it from happening.
So be that as it may, this is what this is where we are. And again, it's the bad votes. And just recently, I guess we mentioned this last week, June 3rd, that they voted. And I even chatted with one of the school board members who had the no vote, or sorry, who had the yes vote, and he still could not see a problem. At the rally, the Take Back Title IX rally, I spoke with Matt Hymas on the board, who voted yes, and he voted yes to take a $2 million grant from the Department of Justice. Now, during the AG's debate, one of the candidates spoke up and mentioned how the Department of Justice is trying to access Utah through education and the corrections department, and how that is inappropriate. We cannot have federal overreach. And yet that school board member voted to take a $2 million grant, saying this is the only thing we can do. That is not the only thing the board can do. There was a deadline to take that money, but we could have looked in-house. We could have looked within the state of Utah. We could have looked within the education budget, which is $8 billion. We could have taken it back to the legislature and said, gosh, there's no money allocated to this bill that you want us to enact.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we need some money.
Yeah.
And so to turn over our children's data without, gosh, do parents know that's going to happen? Do parents realize their data is going to be given to the Department of Justice? And why does the Department of Justice need our children's data? These are questions that were asked, and yet they still voted for this bill that turns over data to the Department of Justice, an agency that is part of the federal government 3,000 miles away in Washington, D.C. Why do they need children's data from Utah?
So that just completely negates separation of powers. Plus, Article 1, Section 8, I don't see, the entire Constitution, where is it? Where in the Constitution does it give the federal government any stewardship over education at all? Nowhere. So
nowhere.
The Department of Justice, nor anywhere in the federal government, nor Congress, they shouldn't be offering us money. They shouldn't have anything to do with our education system. And we've really been already living under the nightmare of that in Davis County, with having the Department of Justice already over our education system for a couple of years, and it has not been good. And why we would want to expand that and continue it, unbelievable. And don't we know that whenever we take this money, it always costs us more to institute it than it does the money that we get?
Oh, exactly. So, Dalane, I'm curious, who else did you have on earlier from the state board races?
We've had Rod Hall. We had Cari Bartholomew. We had Cole Kelley. And Joann is next, right, following you.
Oh, good. Okay. I just have to put a shout out to all of them. I have watched them as they've run their races. Obviously, we're in all different parts of the state. We're not all together, but we're in different parts of the state. And I've just been so pleased with their messaging and their principles and their understanding of the problems that we're seeing in education, and how Republican principles and following the Constitution is really going to be key to fixing what we see going wrong in education. And and right now we have a Pew Research survey that states that only 16% of adults in America think education is going in the right direction. Only 16%. So we know there has to be some changes, and hopefully Utahns will realize, parents and taxpayers who are putting so much money into education with so few results, that they'll realize we do need to have change and vote for myself and these other great candidates who are running for state school board.
We have such good candidates, Kris. I'm so thrilled. I'm so excited. And I feel like they're running really excellent campaigns. They're very serious about it, and they're running for the right reason, and they're bringing great resources to the table. And I feel like, it's exciting. And with some of the members that we already have there, because we have some really great members there, and adding you guys into that, we really can take our education system back. I'm just really excited. Because as we've talked about earlier in the show, we have some amazing teachers in Utah, but we need to give them support and allow them to educate.
Yes.
And not to be activists and not to be doing all these other things that are not part of education. So, Kris, we have your website up there. Tell us how we can reach out to you. How can someone that lives in your area or close to you, how can they reach out to you?
Well, my website is www.kk4.utah.com. So kk4utah.com is probably the easiest way to reach out. And I've got a Facebook page for my campaign at Kris Kimball State School Board 7. And if they would like and follow me on that for information about my campaign and different education events that are going on, that's probably the easiest way.
Excellent. Yes. So Kris, one of the questions that I didn't get a chance to ask everybody, but one of the things that I know is really important to you is we have a lot of pornography in our schools. What do you think do you just think it's something that the state can't really handle? It needs to be on a local level. What do you anticipate doing about that?
Well, all of this is going to be determined by this election, because right now, conservative Republicans have not had a majority at any point in time on a state school board. Okay,
My entire life that I can remember.
Yeah, as far from since before I was born. Okay,
right. Yeah,
it's always been ruled by the governing body has always been ruled by what I would consider. I don't even know. At one point, it was nonpartisan, so we didn't know. But we've never had conservative principles governing the school board. Okay,
right.
And we are now at a threshold with this election where that could be the outcome. And if that is the case with that 3 or 4 that we have sitting on the board who are conservative, 3 very strong, then we will have a majority, and then we will be able to see some changes, because our school board is actually a governing body. It's elected by the constituents in the 15 different districts. And so they actually can make policy and rules on their own, with their own autonomy. They don't need the legislature. Now, if the legislature does pass bills, they certainly can take instruction, but they don't need the legislative body. In fact, for the legislature to really step in and pass bills just shows you that the school board isn't doing their job, because there are problems. For example, you brought up pornography in the schools. Sexually degenerate material has been in our schools for over 4 years, and that hasn't been addressed. And it's not because of those conservative board members. Right. It's because we have, believe it or not, a majority of Republicans, but they are not addressing these problems that could be addressed by the board directly. They've kind of deemed themselves an administrative board, and they are not. The Constitution clearly states that they are elected by the constituents, and therefore they can govern.
Yes, that's such a good point. And, I can remember so many times going to state school board meetings, and the state school board, and when laws are passed in the legislature because things are not being handled on the state level, then the legislature will take it up. Like Ken Ivory's bill to get porn out of the schools. Like, this is 4 years we've been trying to, we have passed the bills, but then they keep needing some more teeth and some more to it, because they haven't taken the porn out of schools yet, as you mentioned. And the state school board is saying, stop telling us what to do. We're the 4th branch of government, legislature. We should be governed. You should be telling us what to do. And it was fascinating to me to hear this last week, to have them say, we're reaching out to the legislature. We need the legislature to pass a law about this. And I'm like, why? I am just totally lost as to why they think the legislature needs to act because they do have power. They do have the stewardship to act on their own. So
yeah, I agree. I was with you at that meeting up at the Capitol for the Title IX, Take Back Title IX.
was that amazing?
And yes, it was very amazing. And I'm so glad that coaches and athletes, women athletes are standing up and taking a firm stand against the overreach of our federal government. But to sit and pass it back to the legislature when the state school board can go ahead and make policies on their own. They can enact it right now. They can instruct schools, no, we are going to protect our girls.
Absolutely.
But it's just another example of the lack of leadership that we're seeing in that body, because they're not addressing problems. As you mentioned, 4 years of this porn issue that we've had in our schools, and that should have been addressed the first year.
You know, it just surprised me. I thought, oh, we didn't realize, because it's not really, it's very, teachers aren't ordering this stuff and they're not asking for it. It's being sent into, it was being sent into bundles, and, you know, librarians get a bundle of books, or librarians order books, or books get sent to them. A lot of them are actually being sent for free. And so, you know, it's really the librarians that either notice it's there or don't notice it's there for different reasons. But I can understand, like, I could see myself as a librarian, like, you know, getting stuff in, not looking it over closely and not even realizing. But once it got brought to the attention, once parents knew, once school board members knew, once librarians knew, I cannot understand how something that is completely against the law, if you or I were to offer it to a child outside of a school, we would be arrested like that. I can't understand how it isn't just removed, and it's taking so long. And that, you know, I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine that's on the state school board. She's like, we have processes for that, and we're working on it, and we're making strides. And I want to say kudos. I'm really glad that we're making strides and things are happening. But I think, as I told her, I think 4 years is just way too long. It should not. This should be happening within days, not years, not weeks, in days. We should be just saying, to get the here, and, you know, ratedbooks.org has done a great job. We know what the books are. Just go in there and get them taken out. Not to say they won't try to put more in, but it's a very serious problem. We know the damage it does to kids. So Kris' website is www.kk4utah.com.
Yes.
Could you use any help with your campaign?
Pardon?
Could you use any help on your campaign?
Yes, I'm happy to accept any and all help. It's a busy, busy time. And with so many primaries in the Republican Party, with so many good candidates at so many important levels of government, I think so many people are spread far and thin. So if you're someone who's not already engaged and would like to help with the school board race, that website will have a place for you to sign up and ask for a sign, or to help, or even donate. Donating is helpful. They're very expensive races. They cover large districts. Almost 2 Senate districts is a school board district.
Right.
So anything you can do that way is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kris. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for running. We're super excited about you. Thank you very much.
Dalane.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks. Okay, we're going to welcome our next guest, which is Joann Brinton, who is in the St. George, Washington County area. And she is really a rock star. I'm super excited to welcome Joann Brinton. We just have such great candidates running for the state school board. Joann's another one of them. We just had some great people on. Joann, thank you so much for taking time to join us. I know you're super busy. So tell us why you decided that you should run for the state school board. You just didn't have enough fun, excitement in your life?
I just didn't have enough going on in my life. So, no, I think I had some people reach out and ask me to run that I really respect, who've been paying close attention to the school board. But really, I had been searching and just kind of wondering why I care so much. I feel like I kind of drive my family, my friends sometimes crazy, because I research politics a lot. I'm looking at education a lot. I'm a former history teacher. And so I think I was kind of praying, like, why do I care so much, Lord? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? And then this was presented, and it just felt like I know I'm supposed to be running in the race, you know. And I'm so honored by the people that I've met, um, the just people who are really stepping in, putting fear aside and jumping in to make a difference. Like, just, and it's really inspired me, because I see so many people that are just really in it for the right reasons, who are jumping in
Yes,
to serve because they
yes.
want to see our schools do better. Utah can do better. We have a great state. We have great families, great students. But there are
Parents.
problems on
And
the
we
state
have
school
great
board.
teachers. You know,
And
we
we
do.
have great teachers, yes. You know, that so many of the problems we're seeing in schools are not because of the teachers. It's the
Right.
agendas being pushed by the federal government. As I was at that Title IX rally a couple days ago as well, you were just talking about that with
Yeah.
Kris. That was super inspiring. This is such an important thing. I love that our state is willing to take that on. Speaker Mike Schultz is willing to take that on
Yeah.
and push back and sue the federal government. This is something that needs to happen. We keep taking federal money with all these strings that are pushing things that are not good for our children. It's not about them. It's not about academics. There are strings bringing in activism, whether it's climate change, pushing this unconstitutional, illegal Title IX change that we should not just go along with. And as I've
Right.
been studying the board, the current board, um, I'm concerned that we do not have enough pushing back. We do not have a board now, even with 2 Democrats and 13 Republicans, now that it's partisan for the last 4 years. We're not seeing any conservative pushback to work with the legislature. So constantly, the legislature has to step over the school board and pass education laws where the school board, I think Kris said this too, has full authority to do it.
They
And they just
totally
choose
do it.
not
The
to.
responsibility.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, I was watching the special meeting last Friday on the sensitive materials, and it's just really concerning to me the attitudes of some who appear to mock. How could anybody want to remove these things? We need to just burn the books. We should just burn the materials and ban them. This is about protecting our children. Pornographic materials, sexually explicit books that detail how to's with rape and incest and gang rapes and all kinds of things have no place in education. This is not education. And
It
I
is.
don't blame the teachers and I don't blame the libraries, but I do blame the school board and local, I think it's such a big issue, and it's been unfair to push it off to the local school boards. I mean, thank goodness we have parent groups that have jumped in to read the books, rate the books, work on their own to work with their legislators to do something about it, because their pleas fall on deaf ears with the school board. So I know in Washington County, I'm grateful here. They've tried to lead out stronger, but it's such a huge push when you're talking about things like Title IX and big unions, and libraries associations and different people, crying out to the media that this is book banning and taking away the First Amendment rights. That's not fair to leave that to local school districts to fight on their own. The state needs to set the policy that gives them the teeth to fight this.
Well, no local district has the authority to violate, the laws of nature and the laws of God. No school district has local control to to do damage to a child. They just don't have that. And the state school board absolutely has the authority, the power, and the responsibility to set a standard. And this is something that needs to be across the entire state school board. So Joann's website is Joann Brinton. So it's JOANN with no E.
Actually, you can just go to brinton.com. Either one. My name, joannbrinton.com, or just
Smart.
BRINTON.com.
Okay, great. Yeah, that way, let's write down. So Brinton.com, if you live in the Washington County area at all. Joann is really she knows her stuff. She is a former educator as well. I love, Joann, that we have so many educators running for the state school board,
Yeah.
because you know what is going on in the classroom. You know what it's like to teach. You can really,
Yes.
and you're all parents. So you know
Yep.
from a parental
And I
perspective.
still have children in the schools, and that's the biggest difference. I want to see
Yeah.
our schools do better. I don't want to feel like I have to pull my children out of public education.
Right. I love that. You want to fix it. Let's get it fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get it
Brinton.com.
fixed.
And I'm sure you could use some help. This Joann is a great candidate. I really hope that you'll go on and help someone in this state. Wherever you live, you have an excellent candidate running near you. Go on and help them. So Joann, thank you. I really appreciate your perspective. Yes, you were talking about Title IX. It is unbelievable that in the state of Utah, we don't have a state school board standing up saying, no, biological boys do not play on girls' sports. This is a real easy one. This is simple. This is not partisan. It's not difficult. It's not complicated. It's simple.
No. Nope. It should be really simple and black and white. All children should be treated equally. But when you're trampling over somebody else's rights, when boys are coming into girls' spaces, locker rooms, dorm rooms, teams, taking medals, there is nothing that backs that up in my mind to be okay. Create a separate category if you need to, but this is pretty black and white. And really it has to be the legislature and the attorney general. We need to make sure, that we're electing people, that we have a governor that's going to stand strong in all the races to do the right thing for our state and for our girls in that.
Excellent. Yes. So well said. Thank you so much, Joann. Thanks for running. Thank you so much for being
You're welcome.
Brinton.com. Thank you so much.
And it's not just Washington County. I actually have 6 counties. My district goes all the way across the bottom of the state out to San Juan County. So.
Yes, they're all huge. Thank you, Joann. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks.
Thanks for being
You
with
too.
us.
Bye-bye.
And everyone, please remember that you are the guardian of your liberty. Thank you. Have a great day.